and welcome. Thanks for watching. You're watching Financial Planner, and we have with us Feroz Aziz of Anand Rathi. Feroz, more often than not, when we talk about single parents, we always land up talking about the emotional burden it takes or one carries as a single parent. Not often do we address one of the most important aspects of being a single parent is also the financial burden that one has to carry and go through. You know, you're single-handedly responsible for your child, and that makes it even harder to live life. You recommend that a financial planner is very important in the life of a single parent. Why don't you start by telling us what one needs to consider as a financial, when you're considering the financial responsibilities of a single parent?
Like you rightly pointed out, Samina, single parent is not an easy job to take up, right? So it's going to have a lot of other implications, from time, from emotion, from financial implication to dependency of the child on one parent. And that's why there's a lot more planning which is required when it comes to a single parent. By nature, we as humans don't have this tendency to plan finances because it's not an interesting subject. Planning a holiday is a very, very interesting activity because you're visualizing joy. Point one I'm making is financial planning is twice as more important when it comes to single parents. Point two is you will have to look at different attributes which are distinctly different, and the path you would take as a single parent when managing money for your child and yourself has to be having some degree of dispersion from the conventional financial planning for a couple. So that's the key bit. Point one, please make sure there is a plan. Point two, there are going to be distinctly different attributes of your life. Incorporate those, and if that is going to be the key, then a financial planner's relevance becomes that much higher.
Right. Now, there are a few factors one definitely needs to consider being a single parent. The kind of risk-taking ability a single parent has is much, much lower than a couple, right?
Correct. So as an individual, you will have to remember that risks become an integral part of this plan, because you can't afford to take more risks because there is no diversification in terms of two parents wanting to support the cause of the child. So the risk-taking capability as an individual, my risk-taking capability could be high, but as a single parent, I have to superimpose my situation and bring down my risk appetite if that is higher by design. So point is very rightly pointed out, Samina. The first key thing a single parent needs to keep in mind is he or she needs to take lower risks. Lower risk, by which I mean more certainty rather than ambiguity, and lower probability outcomes. So risk becomes very important. How does one manage risks? There are three ways to manage risk. One is three different risks to manage. Firstly, one is if you are not there, what kind of how does your child get taken care of? That's basically insurance. The second risk is a contingency fund. A single parent losing a job is very different than a couple and there are two earning members losing a job. So if there is only one source of income at home, you will have to create a contingency fund and cut down your discretionary expense. The third is the investment risk. When you're making investment decisions, the risks have to be measured and have to be kept in a very tight kind of a range to make sure that the outcomes are not very sporadic.
Right. Feroz, also, you know, when you're a middle-aged adult, we keep reiterating time and again that one needs to start planning their retirement as early as they can to ensure that it's a smooth sailing process. When you are a couple, it's a whole lot easier because you have two people usually contributing to the pool, and it makes life a whole lot easier because you not just share responsibilities, but that emotional connect is also very useful. In a case like this, how does one decide the importance of retirement versus child education? Because when you're a single parent, you really do have to fend for yourself.
Okay, I think retirement, definitely a single parent, because he or she is putting so much of emotional investment into the child. It is but natural the child comes first. But it's also important to understand for the single parent, the retirement is one thing which you can't compromise on. Child's education, for example, vis-a-vis retirement, a single parent definitely gives more emphasis to child's education than retirement. But But I would say, on the contrary, the chronological order of importance would come retirement and then child's education. Of course, seems a little counterintuitive to put the child second in this case, but it's important to remember that an education loan is available. A retirement loan is not available to anybody in this country or anywhere for that matter. So a child's education needs to come second, because he or she as a child will be able to fund his or her education. So keep the child's education as the second priority, keep retirement as the first priority, because your well-being is also your responsibility. And when you are a single parent, you don't have a spouse to take care, and retirements, there are no two retirement stages. So rightly pointed out, Samina, that retirement needs to take not a back seat but the driver's seat when it comes to a single parent. And very importantly, you will have to still complement this decision with a lot of education to your child, because a child who's brought up by a single parent needs more financial prudence, more acumen to manage money, to spend money. So if I was a single parent, then I would definitely impart more saving habit in my child. That will go a long way, rather than giving them some extra money to take care of their expenses. Imparting education in terms of managing money, saving money and planning would be a very good investment to make on your child than collecting money only for the child.
Feroze, you know, often in a case of an eventuality, an unforeseen circumstance, we as individuals or as parents always have that emotional security that if not us, our partner will maybe around longer than us to, you know, look after our children financially, emotionally, in every other aspect. Now, as a single parent, that job suddenly gets a whole lot harder, right? I mean, the fear of not being around in a case like that, I think the big question mark a lot of single parents have, or a fear they have, is what happens to their children after them. How important is writing up a will, pulling up a will to ensure your child is looked after financially and emotionally, really?
It is paramount to my mind, Samina, because if you are a single parent, the demise or an eventuality on that single parent is going to be having a large impact on the child. If there are two parents, it's unlikely that both of them leave this world on the same day. It's very, very unlikely. So, but in the case of single parent, that is always a certainty, right? Because the child would be left with no parent on one single day. So it's important to have estate planning, as the technical nomenclature goes, to plan for the child when you are not there. And I think that's important, and it's one thing which is a prime requisite for somebody to start even planning. Second point is, you will have to also look at a legal guardian and make sure that your will has something written on this clearly in terms of who takes care of the child in case of your absence. So that's very, very important. Quite a few places where I meet people and they have left this undone. Legal guardian clearly defining whether it will be grandparents, somebody else who will be taking care of the child, becomes an integral part of the will, and it needs to be very clearly written, because if that is not clearly written, a child might go into a foster home to be taken care of, and I don't think that's one thing which a parent wants. So that's point 2. Point 3 is, when you are actually making a will, you will have insurance policies towards your minor child, making sure that there is a custodian, a good custodian, a reliable, trustworthy custodian of the insurance money in case there is a demise, to be taken care of till the child becomes a major and is able to take decisions in a prudent fashion. So these are the 3 distinctly different elements of an estate plan for a parent who is a single parent.
Right, with that, completely out of time, but thanks for watching. That's of course everything you want to know as a single parent, and how important it is to take your financials a lot more seriously than others. With that, out of time, thanks for watching.